حديثنا اليوم هو حديث عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم سباب المسلم فسوق وقتاله كفر. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, insulting a Muslim is a disobedience or an act of fisq. And disobedience to Allah, they translate fisq. And fighting with him is kufr, an act of disbelief. هذا الحديث agreed upon by Al-Bukhari and Muslim rahimahullah. Both have narrated the same hadith from Abi Wa'il that Ibn Mas'ud said that the Prophet ﷺ said. What that means, this hadith. Let's talk about bad manners. So here he talks about one of the worst manners to have, one of the worst things to do to another person is basically to kill that person unfairly and unjust, and also to insult or curse the person, which is as-sibab. So here the hadith says, Sibabul Muslimi fusuq. Sibab, with the kasra, sibab, from sabba, was-sabbu fil lugha huwa ash-shatm. When you insult someone, or when you talk about, you accuse someone with something insulting, something not appropriate. سواء في عرضه, in relation to his honor, relation to his religiosity, to his worthiness, insult the person. في غيبته أو حضرته. You insult him in front of him or behind his back. Doesn't matter. Still this. So sab is a big circle. So include it. You can include under that umbrella what? Backbiting, gossip, all sab. But also sab, when I say it in front of you and I say bad words to you, like curse or use bad language or insult the person, all this consider a sab. وقيل السباب أشد من السب. The Prophet said sibabul Muslim, not sabbul Muslim. Sibab means that when you are very aggressive and you're insulting, because insulting a level. As-sibab is the high level of insulting, which it could be because it's fusuq. Al-fusuq is one of the, it means it's a major sin. So that means it's just not the insulting. Like for example, you can insult someone by telling him, for example, you're kind of slow, you're boring. That could be insulting. But can that reach to the level of major sin? Or as-sibab, it means when you use false language, when you use a very bad language with someone. That's what more likely sounds like. That's why it is fusuq. It's a major sin. أيضا, there is another point. The word sibab في لغة العرب, in Arabic language, السباب على وزن فعال. والفعال في لغة العرب ما كان بين اثنين. فعال, the format of the word, it means as-sibabul Muslim. It means when two people fight with one another, two people insulting one another. Like qital, two people fighting one another. Sibab, two people cursing. So the hadith talk about, you curse him, he curses you back. You say bad words, you insult him, he insults you back. Which is usually, that's the outcome. When you start talking bad about someone, he will talk bad at you. Obviously, just don't try it. But I mean, in your life, when you say bad words to someone, he will give you, 10 in return. And you guys maybe remember the incident when we said, أحنف القيس شاتمه رجل, and he insulted Al-Ahnaf and he said something bad to Al-Ahnaf. Then Al-Ahnaf looked at him as if he's going to respond. So Al-Ahnaf al-Qais told him, if you say one word, you will hear 10 from me. So Al-Ahnaf smiled and he said, and if you say 10, you will not hear one from me. قال ولو أنت قلت 10 ما سمعت مني واحدة. Don't worry, I'm not this kind of person. I'm not going to go basically to your level. Al-fusuq, al-fisq is, al-fasiq is someone who's still a Muslim, but his Islam or his Iman is very low. If I want to make it like in a diagram, something like you can imagine it, So here you have at-taqwa wal-ihsan. This is the highest level of iman. Then under that, al-iman. And basically inside al-iman al-islam, in the bottom, al-fisq, which is people who are, they committed major sins and he committed like evil things. So he's still Muslim, but they are on the bottom of the segment or this group of people, which is the Muslimin or the Mu'mineen. Right after al-Fusaq comes who? Al-Kuffar. And under Al-Kuffar comes who? Anybody knows? So the Muttaqeen, the Muhsineen, the top, Mu'min, Fasiq in the bottom, Kuffar, then Munafiqeen, ya salam ta'alayk. Hypocrites. They are on the bottom. Okay? طيب. Even the Kuffar levels themselves. أهل الكتاب ثم من بعدهم إلى آخر. طيب. So here al-fisq is that level which is on the bottom of the level of iman. So al-fasiq is still a mu'min, but he was not described with the good mu'min or al-iman al-kamil or his strong iman because he committed major sin. أصل اللغة linguistically فسق يعني خرج وهو الخروج عن الطاعة. But الفسق could also refer to kufr. You have to see the context. ولذلك الله قال عن إبليس, Allah said about Iblis, ففسق عن أمر ربه. يعني خرج عن أمر ربه. So from the linguistic here, الشيطان فسق is not a mu'min, he became a kafir, but he left it. That's why the word فسق in Arabic language, al-fasiqeen in the Quran, sometimes refer to the mu'min who committed major sin, and sometimes refer to the mu'min to the kafir who left Islam completely. You have to look at the context of the word. So here from the context of the hadith, we know that the Nabi is not talking about someone who left Islam completely. We're not talking about someone who left Islam completely. We talk about someone who is still in the circle of Islam, as you're gonna hear soon. By the way, if you want this thing, you can use it. أيوة السلام الله. طيب. So قال قتاله كفر. Fighting him is an act of kufr. It's important also to know this word because it's very, very important when you study the Sharia to understand the difference between al-qatl wal-muqatala. This is two different words, two different meanings completely. Al-qatl is to execute someone, to kill someone. Al-muqatala is to fight someone. In English, we understand the difference between killing and fighting, that's right? Type question. When you fight killing, when you fight, it does not necessarily mean that you're going to kill the person. You fight them until you make them surrender. Doesn't mean that you kill them. ولذلك البغاة والعصاة يقاتلون ولا يقتلون. Let's see, if there is people who transgress, you fight them but you don't kill them. For instance, somebody came to your house to steal from your house. شرعاً إسلامياً, Islamically, you fight him, you don't kill him. But what if he was killed in the process by accident? That's his problem because basically, or he deserved it because he invaded you or he trying to kill you. You fight back, but you don't intentionally try to kill him. I still remember when I took my license, my gun license, the guy who was teaching us, he said, if somebody come to your house and you find someone in your house, and he said, don't shoot him over a TV, it's not worth it, But if you're gonna shoot him, make sure that you kill him. Kida with cold blood. I said, why don't you shoot him in the leg? Or so until the police comes. He said, no. You can if you want, but my advice, just shoot him to kill. Because if you shoot him in the legs or something like that, it might cause you more problem. More lawsuits and complication. Because the law gives you the right to kill to protect yourself from killing. It's like, I'm gonna either me or him. That's why I'm allowed to kill him. But if you shoot him in the legs, that means he's not considered a real threat to you. And I was like, subhanallah, يعني human beings' life means nothing. ليس لها قيمة. And that's bad. That's really bad. Also, I still remember, I took something it's called the Drug Enforcement Agency's Citizen Academy. So in the end of the Citizen Academy course, they take us to show us how they rate houses and how they bust things. It's a beautiful, by the way, program. I advise yani, especially parents, people who are interested in active work and activity in the masajid and stuff like that, to take that Citizen Academy. It was 9 weeks, was very good. But what I still remember, the SWAT team, the head of the SWAT team, he was telling how they bust the drugs and stuff like that. So he said, basically, he said, we, big guy, like a SWAT, a guy. He said, we said, police 3 times in English, and if we have somebody speaking in Spanish, or we might say it, then after that we go. He said, that's the code. If you are standing, you get killed. If I walk to the room and I see you standing, I have the right to shoot you to kill you. Because we tell them, police, get down. And he justified for himself. He was telling us, it just, because he said, you don't know, you think this is cruel, but if you go to my line of work, you will know that 99% of the people who like standing, that means they have machine gun and they shoot us back because you busted drugs. So I asked an innocent question. I said, what if it is just a place where they host the drugs, not necessarily like, even if they have, what if somebody don't speak English? And you said that he knows Chinese, Korean, Arab. What if they don't speak English or Spanish? He said, he's just in the wrong place and wrong time. Nothing. Wallah, I was like surprised. I don't know if they have to be that way to enable in order for them to carry their job, but it's really, I know that this is something I can't beat. Appreciate all the bust that they do and the thing, but this part, subhanAllah, Islam and Iman play a role in shaping your character. Killing is just not an easy thing. Anyways, the Nabi قال, this is an act of kufr. And subhanAllah, this is my point. What that means, act of kufr? It's an act of the kuffar. That's هكذا الكفار. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, the prior to Islam or other than Muslims, in the time of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, when he said that, that's how the kuffar life means nothing. You know the story of a very famous poetry that was hanging in the Kaaba. ألا لا يجهلن أحد علينا فنجهل فوق جهل الجاهلين. He basically, it is a very famous poetry, and he said the poetry, why? Because his mother, she was attending the king's court, so the wife of the king told his mother, she let all the servants go away, then she told the mother, give me the grapes. Pass me the grapes, because none of the servants here. His mother felt that this is insulting. I'm your guest, even if you are the queen. I'm your guest, I'm not your servant. So she said, Wa'adullah wa amrah. What a humiliation. Ya your mother is humiliated. Just for that. He took the sword, he killed the king, and he killed his ministers, and his people fought, took his mother, went back. Then he said this, poetry. If anyone does an act of ignorance against us, we are more ignorant than him. إذا بلغ الفطام لنا صبي تخر له الجبابرة ساجدين ونشرب الماء صفوا ويشربه غيرنا كدرا وطينا. It's a long poetry. He said, we, like our children when they're born, the mighty kings make sujood to them. We drink the pure drinks, and everybody else drink the leftover and the mixed drinks, and he praising himself. Anyway, So this is the akhlaq al-kuffar. This is the attitude of the kuffar. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted the Muslim to be completely different than what they have seen. In Quraysh and the Arabia at the time, they will fight for 30 years over horses, a race between two horses. So killing and stuff like that was something easy. In Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, kufr. This is going back to the act of the kufr, going back to the attitude of the kuffar. And that's why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam warned against it. But here he said, qitaluhu, not killing him, fighting him, even without killing him, is haram. So hitting and all the things under the word تدخل في كلمة المقاتلة. It's included in the word مقاتلة. Al-kufr, the first one, fusuq. Insulting is fusuq. This one, kufr, because killing and fighting and physical harm is more severe than just verbally harming someone by insulting or saying bad things about them. What we learn from the hadith? Number one, Al-hadith يدل على, the hadith shows us that it is haram to curse, to insult a Muslim for no valid reason. It's haram. And if you do this, you are fasiq. And that means it's a major sin in Islam. Major sin. So saying bad words to someone and you know, some people very filthy, especially young people today, very filthy. You know, when you watch TV and they curse and use the F word all the time, unfortunately, people use it and talk it to each other and curse one another. That's not how akhlaq al-Muslimin is. And these people can't use, you know, a full sentence without cursing. That's not how the Muslims are. It's so filthy. When you see people use bad language, but also insulting and using bad language with others, that's also haram. And the hadith also shows you that fighting a Muslim is haram. So what do you think of killing a Muslim? Is haram. No doubt, and even more haram. And it's one of the major sins in Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَنْ يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمُ خَالِدًا فِيهَا وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَلَعَنَهُ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا. Those who kill an innocent Muslim intentionally, their jaza, their punishment is hellfire forever. Forever means يعني for a very, very, very long time. خالدين فيه يعني من طول المكث وليست الأبدية, because killing is a sin, is not a kufr. And I mean by not a kufr, it doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam. And I'll explain why in a little bit. But it's one of the major and worst sin in Islam. And Allah is angry at such person. And Allah cursed such person. And this person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared for him a very painful, great painful punishment in the Day of Judgment. I don't know anything in Sharia. I don't know any sin. Any sin. It was described this way. And the threat is that high. And even ulama rahimahullah said, the one who kill an innocent person, Allah will never guide him to tawbah. That's why he will end up in hellfire. Also, ulama rahimahullah said that this verse could means forever, never get out, if the person kills someone thinking it is halal or it's permissible. Allah, when He mentioned the greatest three sins, الذين لا يدعون مع الله إلها آخر, they don't pray for someone else. ولا يقتلون النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق, and they don't kill an innocent soul. ولا يزنون, and they don't commit adultery. قل تعالوا أتلوا ما حرم ربكم عليكم. هذه التي مات والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خاتمه. This is the last verses that the Nabi sallallahu left behind for the ummah as advisors, set of advisors. In Surah Al-An'am 151. Come, let me recite for you what Allah have forbade upon you. ألا تشركوا به شيئا. You do not commit shirk. Until He said, ولا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق. ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تعقلون. And do not kill the innocent soul. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, كل ذنب عسى الله أن يغفره. في النسائي, في المجتبى, في سنن النسائي, And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, every sin might be forgiven. Oh, inshallah, Allah will forgive it. إلا الرجل يقتل المؤمن متعمدا أو الرجل يموت كافرا. Unless you die in a state of kufr, that will not be forgiven. Also, you kill someone intentionally. You kill someone intentionally. That's something we will never be forgiven. That person will be punished for it in the day of judgment. That's why يقول جاء في الأحاديث that الدواوين يوم القيامة ثلاثة. 3 sets of records. One of them الدماء. One of them has to do with killing or injuring or hurting physically someone. That record is not something that you can overcome by too many salah, wala dua, wala sadaqa, wala donation. No. You have to settle that matter with that person that has been killed. Killing is such a terrible crime in Islam. That the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, وَمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ أَلَّا يُحَالُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ الْجَنَّةِ أو أَلَّا يُحِيلَ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ الْجَنَّةِ مِلْءُ كَفِّهِ مِنْ دَمٍ أَهْرَقَهُ فَلْيَفْعَلْ. That much of blood you spill from your brother, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, يعني handful, is enough to prevent you from entering Jannah. في البخاري. وعبادة بن الصامت said, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, مَنْ اغْتَبَطَ من قتل مؤمنا فاغتبط بقتله لم يقبل الله منه صرفا ولا عدلا. يعني لا فريضة ولا نافلة. The person who's happy for the killing of an innocent Muslim, happy for that, Allah will not accept from him يعني wajib, obligatory or volunteer. Wallahi Shaykh, I have seen people on TV so happy to see people died in the streets. And they make fun of them. And they are Muslims like them. Maybe they disagree with them politically or they disagree. They have no problem. You know, when you look at all these civil wars, when you look at all these aggressions against the citizen of the Muslim country, by Muslims, the soldiers, the police, the brutality. And I'm not talking yet about non-Muslim, I'm talking about Muslim among Muslims. It hurts. I say, where are those people from this ahadith? Can't they read? Can't they know? وفي الصحيحين النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا التقى المسلمان بسيفيهما فالقاتل والمقتول في النار. If 2 Muslims meet each other with the swords, both in hellfire, with the swords, with the drones, with the tanks, with the RPG, with the Kalashnikov, you name it. The killer and the one who's killed, both in hellfire. They said, Ya Rasulullah, طيب, the killer we know, but what about the one who's killed? He said, also he was trying to kill his brother. He's not an innocent. They were both fighting one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, من أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا. That became a very famous verse. Everybody quoting it these days. If you kill one innocent soul, as if you kill all humanity. كان بس يقول كأن يقتل نبيا أو حاكما عادلا. يعني, in another word, this verse actually literally, as Mujahid and other interpreted meant, it means when you kill an innocent person, as if you kill all humanity, it means يعني, all humanity's blood are equal. Yani, not because if you kill anyone, you will be killed for it. As if you killed anyone in the world. You understand? Some people misunderstand it or interpret it. Yani, the crime of one equal to crime like if you killed 4 billion people. It makes no sense, yani, actually. If you're going to take it literally like that. Definitely, killing one person is different than killing 10. So what about killing all humanity? In another word, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was telling, or Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is telling in this verse, that it doesn't matter who you kill from anyone in humanity. They are equal. You will be killed for that person. You will be punished for that crime. طيب في حديث البراء قال لزوال الدنيا أهون على الله من قتل مؤمن بغير حق. It is it is more less severe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's eyes that his whole world get destroyed than one mu'min to be killed. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the end of the days, and this is something we see today very clearly, يكثر القتل, the killing will be spread, widespread. Wallahi, حدثني, one of the brother told me here in Chicago or something like that. I think in Chicago. He said, Sheikh, sometimes people get killed over 50 cents. Like he kills someone and he find only 50 cents with him or $1 with him. Just he robbing the person. He would kill him and just the only thing he found the other guy $1. Yani he didn't kill him for the $1, but it just his like only $1. He would say, oh, the bullet is like 25 cents. I made 25 cents. That's blood and people life means nothing. You heard about the incident in Kabul just 2 days ago. Somebody walked into the Kabul University and started shooting people. And the students were in the windows, don't know to jump or not. He came and he killed them while they are in the just young kids, young students. Just walking, killing people to the left and right. Those who set bomb in the middle of the market. For God's sake, somebody set a bomb in the parking lot where people going to Taraweeh in Masjid al-Nabawi. I know of a case, somebody, in Masjid al-Haram, al-Kaaba, and in Medina, you're allowed to bring with you termis al-shay, which is the tea, the container for the tea, that's right. So they busted a group of people. They filled this, when you, in the door, when you see the teapot, anybody check it? Nobody. So they made a bombs out of this. Like 6, 7 of them. And they were planning attack. And some high level target was praying in the masjid that day, and they want to target him, and they busted him. And when the judge asked one of the people who were involved in this, what about the people who pray? What about the Muslims who pray? طيب يلا, you have, طبعا it's wrong, but okay, you say this guy is kafir, whatever, he's a prime minister or a head of a state. But what about the Muslimin? What about the people who pray? Collateral damage. So what's the difference between you are screaming your louder voice about the drones and how innocent people get killed, and you said, oh, those people have no care for people, and they also say this is a collateral damage. ايش هذا? Unbelievable. The blood is something became not a big deal. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous when people don't care about the other human sanction. And maybe alhamdulillah, we don't have the blood, we don't reach to the level of killing. But I'll show you something that I noticed. My son plays soccer, Yusuf. And sometimes when we go to play games, and I see the kids play, they have no care to break the other kids. When he foul, go to after the ball. It's not in their mind that this human being's body is something I should care about protecting it. Some of the kids who play, so aggressive. It is so sad when you don't feel that sanction, hurmah, you have an honor for the human beings. That you know what? You know that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam just a full hand of blood. He didn't say that to kill the person. That's why it's haram to physically harm anyone. And that's something from we learn from يعني قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مقاتلة, fighting where you hurt the person. ابن عمر كان يقول في البخاري إن من ورطات الأمور التي لا مخرج لمن أوقع نفسه فيها سفك الدم الحرام بغير حله. One of the biggest problems that you have no exit from it is to kill an innocent person. But what about you kill him and you saw him and you cut him pieces, أعوذ بالله. It just, for me, it's behind my ability to comprehend. And by the way, there's nothing new in that. يعني تقرأ في التاريخ عجب. When you read in the history, you will be amazed by the story of conquering Dimashq, or conquering by the Abbasis, or conquering Baghdad, or the internal fight. نسأل الله السلامة والعافية. This hadith also shows you it is haram to transgress against others, verbally, emotionally, physically as well. قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المسلم, when he said killing Muslim, insulting the Muslim. Again, it doesn't mean that non-Muslims you are allowed to insult or to kill. No, it means that we have to start with our own people first. We have to clean our inside house. You start with yourself, then you go farther. It's not acceptable when I say be nice to your parents. It doesn't mean that you don't be nice to other people, but you have to start with your own parents, with your kids, to be nice and role model. And you go farther, because that's an attitude. So the hadith here doesn't mean that you're allowed to insult or to kill innocent people or to insult innocent people. No, the good manners, the good manners. Transgression, it doesn't matter, Muslim or non-Muslim. But here to show التأكيد على حرمة المسلم. your Muslim brother have more right than anyone else. It doesn't mean that the other people don't have any rights. أيضا, exception can be made. Like for example, you fight those who are fighting. You fight the transgressor. Okay? You fight someone breaking into your house or trying to rape your family or take your money. You can fight back. Fight, not to kill. Remember. If he killed in the process, that's unintentionally, there is no responsibility over you. This hadith also shows you that al-kufr is levels, major and minor. فقال هنا قتاله كفر, fighting the Muslim is kufr. طب why we don't say fighting the Muslim is kufr? He's not Muslim, he left Islam. No, actually he's still a Muslim but committed a very major sin. Where we get that from? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا. If two groups of believers fight one another, مع أنهم يقاتل بعضهم بعض ما زال الله سماهم إيش؟ مؤمنين. Even though they're fighting one another, but Allah still called them what? Believers. If fighting one another, kufr, take you out of Islam, Allah will not call them any more believers. But still, while they're fighting one another, Allah called them believers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the killers, okay, about the one who killed someone, قال فمن عفي له من أخيه. If your brother forgive you, your brother what? Your brother in Islam. So he did not strip him from that title. He's still a Muslim, but he committed a very major sin. Also في حديث المقاصة, the very famous hadith in the Day of Judgment, a person will come and he killed someone. قتل هذا. أو في رواية سفك دم هذا. It will be taken from his good deeds. The question, if killing someone is an act of kufr, take you out of Islam, in the Day of Judgment, would you come with good deeds? No, because Allah said, لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ فَقَدِمْنَا إِلَى مَا عَمِلُوا مِنْ عَمَلٍ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا. Al-Kuffar on the Day of Judgment, anyone who is disbeliever or left Islam or abstain, he comes in the Day of Judgment with no good deeds. It's all turned to dust. It's all in vain, as Allah said in the Quran. So since that person, in the Day of Judgment, people will be able to take from his hasanat, it means he still maintained his Islam. That's why he maintained his good deeds. And many other evidence, but this good enough to make the case clear to you. Part of al-muqatala, part of the thing that is haram, the act of kufr is torturing. Torturing someone, beating someone, hitting someone. And that starts at home and going farther. Like what you hear like about how people tortures and think of that nature that you are very familiar with, or you hear about it a lot, unfortunately. That's all haram in Islam. So forbidding torturing is not something, just a modern days Geneva Convention or the American came up with, even though we still, unfortunately, we want to torture someone, we give them to other countries to torture them, or they can be tortured there. No, it is haram, it's haram. And subhanAllah, that's one thing I love about our religion. Our religion gives these rights to everyone. One of the things that I wish that we as Muslims talk very loud and very strong about in America is we all live in America and we see a lot of good things. But unfortunately, if we have this, he's not an American. As if you're not American, it means not all the rules apply to you. Not all human rights or one of the beautiful things that we talk about here in America doesn't apply to non-Americans. That's wrong. If he's a human being, he deserves that. Him being a human being, he deserves that. No torture to American or non-American. We cannot torture at all. We cannot do this, we cannot do that. It's a universal thing. And I think Muslims should be very strong voice in demanding that inside the United States. Anyway, and around the world. But unfortunately, this is something also is a big problem in the world today. The issue of police brutalities and torturing people and so forth. We're almost done. Also, al-ulama rahimahullah talked about, what about someone who's fasiq? Can I insult him? قالوا الفاسق لا حرمة له. But I don't agree with that. Al-fasiq has he deserves respect. He still deserves protection. What is allowed is to mention the thing that he does openly to warn people from it. For instance, somebody did something terrible, bad, and I mention it, like cheated, steal people's money. He's corrupt. And I said, this person is corrupt, he does this and this and that. Because he did it, and he openly did it, and he caught, and whatever, and that's to warn people from it. But that doesn't mean to talk about how fat he is, how this he is, and I talk about things irrelevant. Why? Because al-mu'min, afiful lisan, the mu'min, watch his tongue, pure. النبي قال المؤمن ليس بالفاحش. المؤمن is not a person who speaks ill and bad. Okay? That's why we should always watch what we say. Speaking of tongue and purifying your tongue, they said, I was trying to write something about it, and I come across somebody saying, I think cursing is a bunch of malarkey. Malarkey. What is it? Malarkey? Malarkey. Malarkey. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, malarkey. Joe Biden new word. Okay, malarkey. They said, I think cursing is a bunch of malarkey. Okay. Anyway, Allah said in the Quran, لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول. Allah doesn't like seeing people to speak ill and evil, إلا من ظلم, except you have been unfairly treated and you defend yourself. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, البذاءة من الجفاء والجفاء من النار. Bad language from البذاءة, and that lead to hellfire. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, الحياء من الإيمان. الحياء, modesty from iman. والعي شعبتان. Anyway, then he said, والبذاءة أو والبذاء من النفاق. And bad tongue and evil talk is from a sign of hypocrisy. Okay? Also, اللي هي الوقاحة يعني. Also, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, إن من been reported, إن من أرب الربا, one of the worst form of riba is to speak ill of your brother's honor with no proof. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْذُونَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بِغَيْرِ مَا اكْتَسَبُوا فَقَدْ احْتَمَلُوا بُهْتَانًا وَإِثْمًا مُبِينًا. Those who hurt the believing men and women unfairly, with something that they don't deserve to be hurt for. They didn't do anything wrong to you. You have carried buhtan wa ithman mubina, a clear, great sin that you have to deal with it in the day of judgment, obviously. And in Ibn Hajar al-Haytami rahimahullah, he mentioned in his book Al-Kaba'ir, the major sin number 98 and 99, cursing someone and using bad language against someone, because it's a major sin. ذلك النووي رحمه الله said, سب المسلم بغير حق حرام بالإجماع وفاعله فاسق. It's haram by the consensus, and the one who does such thing is fasiq. So make sure that we all care about not to curse our children, our family. Don't raise your kids on cursing. I know it's a common thing to hear in TV and shows, but at least make sure that you educate yourself. Tell your children who watch TVs, watch programs, educate them about the importance of pure tongue. Sometimes kids in front of you do that, but in their own, they do something else. When they write, they all use all these bad words. We need to teach us, sometimes we lose it. I know sometimes we lose it, we all do. But you have to turn and teach your tongue to say what's correct. You have to teach yourself to restrain your strength or your hands from harming someone. Finally, what about any martial arts, since we have Abu Ayman here? Abu Amin. What about martial arts? That's like fighting, one Muslim, another. We said, no, as long as there is no real hurting in it. It's like wrestling. You know, when even in martial art, we do and we have limit. But I definitely believe the martial arts that involve, like some of these martial arts that you see inside cages and stuff like that, I don't believe this kind of activity is halal in Islam. I don't believe that. I believe this is, not allowed. And I do believe that this is something that should be not encouraged. And, I appreciate some of the Muslim players in this area and how proud of their Islam. But these different cases, that's a good Muslim, a good person. But it doesn't justify that we allow people just to be like animals in a cage fighting one another until someone to bleed each other. It's so weird actually as a concept. It just doesn't sound right. I don't know how in the world we have made this sound okay. It just doesn't sound right. And that's because we do it, it means it's okay. But training and martial art, I myself play taekwondo. I have played when I was younger. These are to teach you how to defend yourself and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Even sometimes we play against each other, we compete with one another. But I'm talking about, accident can happen. Yes, can happen. That's a part of training. But street fight, no, that's haram in Islam. In a parking lot and we fight, take the gloves off or that's not allowed in Islam. Because that's harming and physically harming someone. Even myself, I don't believe boxing is something allowed as well. Because it's all about hitting the face. And then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you're not allowed to hit the face. So there is certain rules and guidance, no matter how popular it is, but for us as Muslims, we have also guidelines in our sports. It's not only the issue is not to make ruku' to the person, but also there is other etiquette should be followed as well. Anyway, we don't want to keep it short. Yes, Abu Amin.
Question about the dhanb of al-dam. Does it also apply to the animals or only humans?
Very good. What about harming animals and killing animals? What is not allowed is to kill animals out of torturing. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed by people hanging an animal and making bleed, and they keep shooting it and hitting it. They're not killing it, just torturing, just making fun of it. that's haram. But if you hunt, that's allowed. Or use it to hunt, that's allowed. Or it is harmful. You know, somebody called me and he said, Sheikh, would you come help me? I told you how. It's the coolest request I ever got. He said, Sheikh, I have some sheep and stuff like that, and I have coyotes. They come and they kill them. So how about, I know you like to shoot, so we're going to go and we have our rifles in the night and just wait for these coyotes when they come to basically to the barn. We shoot them, but we might stay the whole night, like, you know, with the telescopes like that. That's a nice, cool request, actually. Sometimes I got another one about hogs. They come and they destroy the land. They destroy your land. You know, the wild pigs, they ruin your land when they come. So there's a lot of people, we shoot them as well, you know. So anyway, that's allowed, and because they are harmful to you. Yeah. Jazakumullah khair.